The sky was already dark at 5 in the evening, with Christmas lights twinkling in windows all along Pine Street. Tom Walker pulled his old blue jacket tighter around his shoulders as the winter wind picked up. Christmas Eve had sneaked up on him this year, as it often did since he became a single dad to his two boys, Alex and Ben, ages 10 and 7. Just one more stop, Tom whispered to himself, checking his watch. The boys were at home with Mrs. Wilson from next door, probably already in their pajamas and arguing about which Christmas movie to watch first. Tom smiled at the thought, then remembered the toy store would close in 20 minutes. Alex had been dropping hints about a specific action figure for weeks, and Tom was determined not to disappoint. The main streets were packed with last-minute shoppers like him. Cars honked impatiently at each other, and the sidewalks were crowded with people carrying colorful bags and boxes. Tom knew a shortcut, an alley that would cut 3 blocks down to 1. He turned away from the bright shop windows and headed into the narrow passage between buildings. The alley was quiet compared to the busy streets, with only the distant sounds of holiday music drifting through the air. Halfway through, Tom slowed his pace. Something moved by the large dumpster ahead. A small figure bent over, reaching into a pile of discarded boxes and bags. At first, Tom thought it might be a stray dog or cat looking for food. But as he got closer, he realized it was a child, a little girl with a worn blue knit hat pulled down over her ears. She couldn't be more than 8 years old, and she was methodically sorting through the trash, examining each item before either placing it in a small plastic bag beside her or returning it to the pile. Tom stopped walking, unsure what to do. Why was a child alone in an alley on Christmas Eve? Where were her parents? Should he call someone? The temperature had dropped below freezing and the weather report had warned of snow later that night. While Tom was still deciding how to approach, the girl must have sensed his presence. She turned quickly and their eyes met under the dim yellow glow of the security light mounted high on the building wall. Her face was small and serious, with round cheeks reddened by the cold. For a moment they just looked at each other, two strangers in an unlikely place on the night before Christmas. Tom raised his hand in a small wave, trying not to seem threatening. "Hey there," he said gently. "Are you okay?" The girl didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed her plastic bag, clutching it tightly to her chest. Her eyes darted to the other end of the alley, calculating her escape route. "Wait," Tom said, keeping his distance. "I'm not going to hurt you. Do you need help? It's really cold out here." The girl took a step back. "I'm fine," she said in a quiet but firm voice. "I'm just looking for things." Her breath made little clouds in the cold air. Tom nodded, trying to show he understood, though he didn't, not really. "Things for what?" he asked carefully. The girl hesitated, clearly weighing whether to trust this stranger. "For a project," she finally said, her small shoulders straightening with a touch of pride. Before Tom could ask another question, the girl had scooped up her bag and darted away, surprisingly quick for someone so small. She disappeared around the corner at the end of the alley, leaving Tom standing alone among the shadows and forgotten things. Tom stood there for a long moment, the toy store temporarily forgotten. The encounter left him with an uneasy feeling in his stomach. He'd grown up in this town, raised his kids here. It was a good place with good people, but clearly not everyone was surrounded by twinkling lights and wrapped presents tonight. He thought of his own boys, warm at home, waiting for tomorrow morning when they'd rush downstairs to see what Santa had brought. The contrast with the little girl in the alley was too sharp to ignore. Tom pulled out his phone, wondering if he should call the police. But what would he say? He hadn't seen any clear signs of abuse or neglect, just a child alone when she shouldn't be. As snowflakes began to fall, dusting his shoulders and the ground around him, Tom made a decision. He put his phone away and hurried toward the toy store with new purpose. The action figure for Alex would have to wait. Right now there was something more important he needed to do. The toy store clerk was already starting to close up when Tom rushed in, the bell over the door jingling cheerfully. The young man looked up with a weary smile. "Just made it," he said. "We're closing in 5 minutes." "Thanks," Tom replied, quickly scanning the aisles. "I need something warm. A good winter coat for a girl, about 8 years old." The clerk raised his eyebrows. "Sir, we don't sell clothes here." "Just toys and games." Tom blinked, momentarily confused in his rush. Right, of course. He rubbed his forehead, leaving a damp streak from the melting snowflakes. Then I need something a kid could use to make things. Art supplies, maybe? And something warm and soft, like a stuffed animal. The clerk pointed him toward the back of the store. 5 minutes later, Tom left with a craft kit for making jewelry and decorations, a soft purple blanket with silver stars, and a small stuffed penguin wearing a red scarf. Outside, the snow was falling faster now, covering the street in a thin white blanket that muffled sounds and transformed the ordinary town into something magical. But Tom's thoughts were far from the beauty around him. He had to find that little girl again, had to make sure she was safe tonight of all nights. He hurried back to the alley, but as he expected, she was gone. Tom looked down at the bag in his hands, then at the fresh snow covering the ground. There would be footprints, small ones leading away from this place. And Tom was going to follow them, even if it meant being late getting home, because something told him that whatever had brought that child to search through trash on Christmas Eve, the truth behind it would change everything he thought he knew about his comfortable life in the town he called home. Tom walked slowly through the falling snow, following the small footprints that led away from the alley. They weren't hard to track at first, tiny imprints heading east, away from the busy shopping district and toward the older part of town where rent was cheaper and buildings needed repair. His phone buzzed in his pocket. It was Mrs. Wilson. "The boys are asking when you'll be home," she said when he answered. "They want to put out cookies for Santa." Tom looked down at the shopping bag in his hand, then up at the darkening sky. The snow was coming down harder now. "I'm running a bit late," he told her. Something came up. "Could you help them with the cookies?" "I'll be there as soon as I can," Mrs. Wilson agreed, though he could hear the question in her voice. Tom rarely changed plans on Christmas Eve. It was their special time. Just him and the boys since his wife had passed away 3 years ago. "Everything okay?" Mrs. Wilson asked. Tom watched as the footprints he was following turned down another street. "I hope so," he said. "I just need to check on something. Tell the boys I'll be home to read The Night Before Christmas, same as always." After hanging up, Tom quickened his pace. The footprints were starting to disappear under fresh snow. He turned the corner and found himself on Cedar Lane, a street lined with small apartment buildings. The tracks led toward a run-down 3-story building with peeling green paint. Just as Tom approached, he saw movement near the side of the building. A small figure in a blue hat ducking behind a row of trash cans. He'd found her. Tom stopped, not wanting to scare her off again. "Hey," he called softly. "Remember me from the alley? I just want to make sure you're okay." For a moment, there was silence. Then the little girl peeked out from behind the trash cans, clutching her plastic bag tightly. "Why did you follow me?" she asked, her voice somewhere between suspicious and curious. Tom held up his shopping bag. "I brought you something. And I was worried. It's freezing out here." The girl stepped out fully now, snowflakes catching on her eyelashes. "I'm not supposed to take things from strangers," she said, but her eyes drifted to the colorful bag in Tom's hand. "That's very smart." Tom nodded. "My name's Tom Walker. I live over on Maple Drive with my 2 boys. What's your name?" The girl hesitated, scuffing one worn boot in the snow. "Lily," she finally said. "Nice to meet you, Lily," Tom said, crouching down so they were at eye level, but keeping enough distance that she wouldn't feel threatened. "Is this where you live?" He nodded toward the green apartment building. Lily nodded. "Upstairs. With my grandma. Does your grandma know you're out here?" Tom asked gently. Lily looked down at her bag of collected items. "She's sleeping. She's been real tired lately." Something in her tone made Tom's heart sink. He glanced up at the building. Most windows were lit up with Christmas lights or warm glows from inside. But one window on the second floor remained dark. "Lily, can I ask why you were looking through that dumpster? What are you making with those things?" Lily's face brightened a little. "A present. For Grandma. For Christmas." She opened her bag slightly to show him. Inside were bits of colored paper, an old picture frame with broken glass removed, some ribbon that had probably once wrapped someone else's gift, and various other discarded items that might look like junk to most people, but clearly held potential in Lily's eyes. "She always makes Christmas nice," Lily continued, her voice getting softer. "But this year she got real sick and she couldn't do the tree or lights or anything. So I wanted to surprise her." Tom felt a lump forming in his throat. Here was this child, alone on Christmas Eve, not searching for toys or candy for herself, but gathering materials to make a gift for her grandmother. "That's really thoughtful of you," he said. "I bet she'll love whatever you make." Lily shrugged, but he could see the hint of a smile. "I'm trying to make a picture frame with pretty stuff around it. For our photo." Tom held out a shopping bag. "Well, it just so happens that I have something that might help with that. It's a craft kit for making decorations. Would that be useful?" Lily's eyes widened. She took a cautious step forward. "Really?" "Really," Tom nodded. "And there's a warm blanket and a stuffed penguin, too. Early Christmas presents." Lily reached for the bag but then pulled her hand back. "Why would you give me presents?" "You don't even know me." It was a good question, one that made Tom think. Why had he felt so compelled to help this particular child on this particular night? "Because it's Christmas Eve," he said simply. "And nobody should be alone or cold on Christmas Eve." Lily studied his face as if looking for some trick or lie. Finding none, she slowly reached out and took the bag. "Thank you," she said quietly, peeking inside. Tom smiled, but concern was still gnawing at him. "Lily, is there anyone taking care of you and your grandma? Any other family?" Lily shook her head. "Just us. But Grandma takes good care of me," she added quickly, defensively. "She's just sick right now. She'll get better." Tom nodded, not wanting to upset her. "I believe you. But it's really cold tonight and it's Christmas Eve. I'd feel better if I could talk to your grandma." "Make sure you both have what you need." Lily clutched the bag to her chest, thinking. Finally, she nodded. "Okay, but you have to be quiet. If she's still sleeping, we can't wake her up. She needs rest to get better." "I promise," Tom said, standing up and brushing snow from his knees. Lily led him to a side door of the apartment building. Inside, the hallway was warmer but dimly lit, with a faint smell of old cooking and stronger notes of pine air freshener trying to cover it. They climbed a creaky staircase to the second floor, their footsteps echoing in the quiet building. From behind closed doors came sounds of life, a TV playing a Christmas movie, someone laughing, a child's excited voice asking about Santa. At the end of the hall, Lily stopped in front of apartment 2E. She dug a key from her coat pocket, attached to a faded blue ribbon around her neck. "Remember," she whispered. "We have to be quiet." As Lily turned the key in the lock, Tom felt a strange mixture of emotions, concern for this child and her grandmother, but also a growing sense that he was about to discover something that would change more than just his Christmas Eve plans. Whatever was behind that door, he knew he was exactly where he needed to be tonight. The apartment door opened with a soft creak. Lily slipped inside, motioning for Tom to follow. He stepped in cautiously, feeling like an intruder despite the invitation. The apartment was small, just a living room connected to a tiny kitchen with 2 doors that probably led to bedrooms. It was clean but sparse, with furniture that had seen better days. The only light came from a small lamp on an end table, casting long shadows across the room. There was no Christmas tree, no decorations, no signs of the holiday that was lighting up the rest of the town. What struck Tom most was the cold. Inside wasn't much warmer than outside. He could see his breath forming small clouds in the dim light. "Grandma," Lily called softly, setting down her bags. "Are you awake?" "I brought someone," a weak voice answered from one of the rooms. "Lily, is that you, honey?" "It's me, Grandma. I made a friend. His name is Tom." Lily headed toward the voice, and Tom followed, unsure what he would find. The bedroom was dark except for the glow of a small nightlight plugged into the wall. An elderly woman was propped up on pillows in a twin bed, covered with what looked like every blanket in the house. Her face was thin and pale, with deep lines around her eyes and mouth, but those eyes lit up when she saw her granddaughter. "Where have you been, sweetie? I was worried." Her voice was raspy, and even those few words triggered a coughing fit. Tom stood awkwardly in the doorway as Lily went to her grandmother's side, pouring water from a pitcher on the nightstand. "I was making your Christmas surprise," Lily said, helping her grandmother drink. "And I met Tom. He gave me presents." The grandmother's eyes shifted to Tom, suddenly alert and wary despite her weakened state. "Who are you?" she asked directly, a protective edge to her voice. Tom stayed in the doorway, trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. "My name is Tom Walker, ma'am. I met Lily earlier this evening. She was collecting materials for a project. I was concerned about her being out alone in this weather. so I asked if I could make sure she got home safely." The woman studied him for a moment, then looked at her granddaughter. "Lily, what have I told you about talking to strangers?" "But he's nice, Grandma," Lily protested. "He gave me craft stuff for your present. And a penguin." The grandmother sighed, another cough shaking her thin frame. "Lily, why don't you go get your new things ready in your room? I want to talk to Mr. Walker for a minute." Lily looked between them, then nodded. She grabbed her bags from the living room and disappeared through the other bedroom door, but not before giving Tom a small smile. Once Lily was gone, the grandmother's expression hardened. "Look, I appreciate your concern, but we're fine. Lily shouldn't have been out by herself, and I'll talk to her about that. You can go now." Tom noticed how she pulled the blankets tighter around herself, how the room had no heat despite the freezing temperatures. This wasn't just a sick woman, this was a desperate situation. "Ma'am," he said gently, "I don't mean to intrude, but it's freezing in here. And it's Christmas Eve. Is there someone I can call to help you? Family, friends?" Her eyes flashed with pride in something else, fear. "We don't need charity. It's not charity to accept help when you need it," Tom said. "Everyone needs help sometimes. I know I did after my wife passed." The woman's expression softened slightly. "I'm Ruth Davis, and it's just me and Lily now. Her mother, my daughter, passed away 2 years ago." Tom nodded sympathetically. "I'm raising 2 boys on my own. It's not easy, even with support." Ruth coughed again, a deep rattling sound that worried Tom. "How long have you been sick?" he asked. "About 3 weeks now," Ruth admitted. "I thought it was just a cold, but it got worse. I had to miss work, and then—" She trailed off, but Tom understood. No work meant no money for rent, heat, food, or medicine. "Have you seen a doctor?" Ruth shook her head. "No insurance. I've been taking over-the-counter stuff, but it's not helping much." "And the heat?" Tom asked, though he already knew the answer. "Got shut off last week," Ruth said, her voice quieter now, as if admitting defeat. "I told Lily it was broken. I didn't want her to worry. I have a space heater for her room, but the electricity might be next if I can't get back to work soon." Tom's mind was racing. Here was a grandmother, seriously ill, trying to shield her granddaughter from how bad things had gotten. And here was Lily, a child searching through trash on Christmas Eve, not for herself, but to make something special for the person she loved most. From the other room came the sound of Lily humming a Christmas carol as she worked on her project. The simple joy in her voice despite their circumstances moved something deep inside Tom. "Mrs. Davis, Ruth, I want to help," he said firmly. "Not charity. Just one parent to another, one human being to another." Ruth looked like she wanted to refuse, but another coughing fit hit her worse than before. When it subsided, she looked exhausted. "Why would you help strangers?" she asked, echoing her granddaughter's question from earlier. Tom thought about his boys at home, waiting to put out cookies for Santa. He thought about his own comfortable house with its working heat and fully stocked refrigerator. He thought about how random chance had led him down that alley tonight, how easily he could have missed seeing Lily, how easily he could have walked away. "Because it's Christmas Eve," he said again, "and because nobody should face these kinds of struggles alone. Not you, not Lily, not anyone." Ruth looked at him for a long moment, tears welling in her eyes. "I was going to make it so special for her," she whispered. "I saved for months to buy her this doll she wanted. It's wrapped under my bed. But then I got sick and the bills piled up and I couldn't do anything else, not decorations, not a tree, not even Christmas dinner." Tom felt his throat tighten. "It's not too late," he said. "Christmas isn't about the decorations or fancy dinners. It's about being together, taking care of each other. Lily knows that. That's why she was out there tonight trying to make something special for you." A small sound made them both turn. Lily stood in the doorway, clutching her new stuffed penguin. "Are you talking about Christmas?" she asked hopefully. "Is Tom going to help fix it?" Ruth wiped her eyes quickly. "Lily, honey." "Yes," Tom interrupted, making a decision. "I am going to help. In fact, I'd like to invite you both to spend Christmas with me and my boys. We have plenty of food, a warm house, and space for guests." Lily's eyes widened. "Really, a real Christmas?" Ruth started to protest, but Tom held up his hand. "Just for tomorrow. And the day after, we'll figure out next steps. Getting you to a doctor, dealing with the heat, everything else. But tonight and tomorrow, let's just make sure you're both warm and fed and together." Lily looked to her grandmother with pleading eyes. Ruth looked from her granddaughter to Tom, weighing pride against necessity, suspicion against hope. "Please, Grandma," Lily whispered. "I want you to get better." Those simple words seemed to decide it. Ruth nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "For Lily," Tom smiled, relief washing over him. "For Lily," he agreed. "And for you too, Ruth." As Lily cheered and ran to gather her things, Tom pulled out his phone to call Mrs. Wilson and explain the change in plans. Tonight his family would grow by 2, and nothing would ever be quite the same again. Getting Ruth and Lily to Tom's house wasn't easy. Ruth was weaker than she'd let on, barely able to walk down the stairs even with Tom's support. The cold night air triggered another coughing fit so severe that Tom nearly called an ambulance. But Ruth was adamant. No hospitals on Christmas Eve, not when Lily was so excited about a real Christmas. "Tomorrow," she wheezed as Tom helped her into the passenger seat of his car. "I'll see someone tomorrow." Lily sat in the back, her few hastily packed belongings in a small backpack beside her. Along with her craft supplies and new penguin, she'd carefully wrapped a small package in newspaper, her gift for her grandmother. She clutched it protectively on her lap. "Is your house far?" she asked as Tom started the car, the heater blasting warm air. "About 10 minutes, Tom said, watching in the rearview mirror as Lily's face relaxed in the warmth. "My boys are waiting up. They're excited to meet you." That was a small lie. Tom had only managed a hurried call to Mrs. Wilson, explaining that he was bringing guests, a sick neighbor and her granddaughter who needed help. Mrs. Wilson, bless her, hadn't asked many questions. She promised to explain to the boys and stay until Tom arrived. As they drove through the snowy streets past houses decorated with lights and inflatable Santas, Tom's mind raced. What was he doing bringing strangers home on Christmas Eve? He knew nothing about these people, yet something deep inside told him this was exactly what he was supposed to do. "Pretty lights," Lily said softly, her face pressed against the window. "We used to have lights, before Mom went to heaven." In the passenger seat, Ruth closed her eyes, pain crossing her face that had nothing to do with her illness. "Well, we have plenty of lights at our house," Tom said cheerfully, "and a big tree. The boys and I decorated it last weekend. Do you have a star on top?" Lily asked. "We sure do. Alex, that's my older boy. He put it up there himself this year." "We had an angel," Lily said, "with a gold dress, but I don't know where it is now." Tom caught Ruth's eye. She shook her head slightly. Another casualty of their circumstances, another thing sold or left behind. They turned onto Maple Drive, a street of comfortable middle-class homes. Tom's wasn't the biggest or the fanciest, but tonight it looked magical. With multicolored lights outlining the roof and windows, and a glowing snowman on the front lawn. "That's our house," Tom said, pulling into the driveway. "The blue one with the snowman," Lily gasped. "It's like a Christmas card." Even Ruth managed a small smile, though it was quickly hidden by another cough. The front door opened as they parked, and Mrs. Wilson appeared, her gray hair tucked under a red hat. Behind her peered 2 curious boys. "Let me help you inside," Tom said to Ruth. To Lily, he added, "Can you carry your bag and your grandma's?" Lily nodded seriously, shouldering both small bags as if they contained treasure. Mrs. Wilson hurried down the driveway, concern written across her face when she saw Ruth's condition. "Oh, you poor dear," she said, taking Ruth's other arm. "Let's get you inside where it's warm." Together they managed to get Ruth up the short path and into the house. The blast of warm air and the smell of pine and cinnamon enveloped them. In the living room, a 7-foot Christmas tree sparkled with lights and ornaments, presents piled beneath it. Stockings hung from the fireplace mantel where a fire crackled merrily. "Wow," Lily breathed, her eyes wide. The 2 boys hung back, watching curiously. Alex, the 10-year-old, had his father's serious brown eyes and thoughtful expression. Ben, the 7-year-old, bounced on his toes with barely contained energy. "Boys," Tom said, "these are our guests. This is Mrs. Davis and her granddaughter Lily. They're going to spend Christmas with us." "Hi," Alex said politely. Ben was less reserved. "Are you sick?" he asked Ruth directly. "You look really sick." "Is that why you're here? Are you Lily's grandma?" "How old are you, Lily? Do you like Christmas? Do you want to see our tree?" "Benjamin," Mrs. Wilson scolded gently, One question at a time, please, but Ruth managed a weak laugh. It's okay, she said. Yes, I'm a bit under the weather. Yes, I'm Lily's grandma. And I think Lily would love to see your tree. Lily, still clutching her wrapped package, nodded shyly. I'll show you, Ben exclaimed, grabbing Lily's hand and pulling her toward the tree. We have the best ornaments. Some are really old from when Dad was little. The ice was broken. As Ben chattered away, showing Lily each special ornament, Alex approached more cautiously. Dad, he said quietly, is Mrs. Davis going to be okay? She looks really sick. Tom put his arm around his older son's shoulders. She needs to see a doctor, he admitted. But right now she needs warmth and rest. Can you help make up the guest room for her? Alex nodded, pleased to be given an important job. And where will Lily sleep? We can put her on the air mattress in your room if that's okay. Or she can have the couch. Alex thought for a moment. She can have my bed, he decided. I'll take the air mattress. Tom felt a surge of pride. That's very generous, buddy. Mrs. Wilson had settled Ruth on the couch near the fire. I've made some chicken soup, she told Tom. It's on the stove. And I put fresh sheets on the guest bed. Thank you, Tom said, for everything. I know this is all a bit unexpected. Mrs. Wilson patted his arm. It's Christmas, Tom, we help each other. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. But that woman needs a doctor. Soon. First thing tomorrow, Tom promised. After Mrs. Wilson left, they had a simple dinner of soup and bread. Ruth managed a few spoonfuls before exhaustion overcame her. Tom and Alex helped her to the guest room, where she fell asleep almost immediately. When Tom returned to the living room, he found Ben, Lily, and Alex sitting cross-legged on the floor, arranging cookies on a plate. For Santa, Ben explained. Do you think he'll really come? Lily asked, her voice small and uncertain. Even though I'm not at home? The question broke Tom's heart. Of course he will, he assured her. Santa knows where all children are on Christmas Eve. Even if you don't have a chimney? Lily pressed. Even then, Tom nodded. Santa is magic that way. Satisfied, Lily carefully placed the last cookie on the plate. We should leave extra, she decided, because there's more kids here than at my house. Good thinking, Alex said, adding another cookie to the pile. As the children arranged the cookies and poured a glass of milk, Tom slipped into the guest room to check on Ruth. She was awake. Staring at the ceiling, how are you feeling? He asked, sitting gently on the edge of the bed. Like I've been hit by a truck, Ruth admitted, but warmer. The kids are putting out cookies for Santa, Tom said. Lily's worried he won't find her here. Ruth closed her eyes. I couldn't even manage that for her this year. Cookies for Santa. A tear slipped down her cheek. I've failed her so completely. Tom shook his head firmly. That's not true. You've kept her safe and loved. That's what matters most. You don't understand, Ruth said, her voice breaking. After my daughter died, I promised I'd give Lily a good life. A stable home. And look where we are. Spending Christmas with strangers because our power got cut off. Life happens, Tom said gently. Illness happens. Job loss happens. It doesn't mean you failed. But I should have planned better, saved more. Stop, Tom interrupted. 3 years ago after my wife died, I couldn't even get out of bed some days. If it weren't for friends and neighbors helping with the boys, who knows where we'd be. Accepting help isn't failure. It's being human. Ruth was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, why are you doing this, really? You don't know us, Tom thought about it. When I saw Lily in that alley, something just clicked. I knew I had to help. Maybe because I know what it's like to be alone when everyone else seems to be celebrating. Or maybe... He paused, almost embarrassed by what he was about to say. Maybe it's just Christmas magic, Ruth smiled faintly. Christmas magic, she repeated. Lily would like that explanation. From the living room came the sound of children laughing, a moment of pure joy cutting through all the worry and stress. Get some rest, Tom said, standing up. Tomorrow will be better. I promise. As he closed the door softly behind him, Tom had no idea just how prophetic those words would be, or how completely his act of kindness would change not just this Christmas, but all their lives going forward. Christmas morning dawned bright and clear, sunlight reflecting off the fresh snow and streaming through the windows of Tom's house. He woke early, as he always did on Christmas, to put the turkey in the oven and make coffee before the boys came thundering downstairs. But this Christmas was different. As Tom padded quietly to the kitchen, he heard soft voices from the living room. Peering around the corner, he saw Lily and Ben sitting cross-legged by the tree, examining their stockings with wonder. "Look, he ate all the cookies," Ben was saying, pointing to the empty plate. "And he knew I was here," Lily whispered, holding up her stocking in amazement. It wasn't as full as the boys' stockings. Tom had done his best with what he had on hand, stuffing it with tangerines, chocolate coins, and small toys that the boys had outgrown but never played with. But to Lily, it clearly seemed magical. Tom smiled and backed away, not wanting to interrupt their moment. In the kitchen, he found Alex already awake, trying to figure out the coffee maker. "Morning, Dad," Alex said. "I thought I'd help with breakfast." "That's thoughtful of you," Tom replied, giving his son a hug. "How about pancakes? Special Christmas-shaped ones?" Alex nodded enthusiastically. As they mixed batter and heated the griddle, Alex asked quietly, "Is Mrs. Davis going to be okay?" Tom glanced toward the guest room. He'd checked on Ruth twice during the night, alarmed by her labored breathing and fever. "We're going to take her to the doctor as soon as they open," he said. "The urgent care clinic opens at 9, even on Christmas." "She sounds really bad when she breathes," Alex observed, pouring batter onto the hot griddle in the shape of a snowman. "Like Grandpa did before he went to the hospital that time." Tom nodded, remembering his father's bout with pneumonia last year. The similarity hadn't escaped him. "That's why we need to get her checked out right away." By the time they had a stack of pancakes ready, snowmen, candy canes, and somewhat misshapen Christmas trees, Ben and Lily had made their way to the kitchen, followed by Ruth, who leaned heavily against the wall for support. "Merry Christmas," Ben shouted, his excitement impossible to contain. "Merry Christmas," Ruth smiled weakly, easing herself into a chair. "Something smells wonderful." "Christmas pancakes," Tom explained, setting plates on the table. An old Walker family tradition. As they ate, Tom watched Lily and Ruth. Despite her obvious excitement about Santa's visit, Lily kept glancing at her grandmother with worried eyes. And Ruth, for all her attempts to appear better, couldn't hide her illness. She barely touched her food and kept pressing a hand to her chest when she thought no one was looking. After breakfast, they gathered around the tree. The boys, to their credit, didn't dive into their presents as they normally would. Instead, they waited, looking to their father for guidance in this unusual Christmas. "Why don't we let Lily go first?" Tom suggested, and both boys nodded. Lily's eyes widened. Under the tree were several packages with her name on them. Presents that Tom had wrapped late last night after the children were asleep. Some contained small toys and games that the boys had but rarely used. Others held practical things: a warm sweater, new socks, a colorful knit hat to replace her worn blue one. "These are for me?" Lily asked in disbelief. "Santa knew you were here," Ben said matter-of-factly. "I told you he would." Lily looked at Ruth, who nodded encouragingly despite the tears in her eyes. "Go ahead, sweetheart." As Lily unwrapped her gifts with careful, reverent movements, saving every piece of paper and ribbon, Tom slipped away to check the turkey. When he returned, Lily was presenting her grandmother with the small package wrapped in newspaper. "I made it for you, Grandma," she said proudly. "Open it, open it." Ruth unwrapped the package with trembling hands. Inside was a picture frame made from the materials Lily had collected from the dumpster, along with the craft supplies Tom had given her. Bits of colored paper, ribbon, and shiny objects had been glued around a simple wooden frame, creating a border of cheerful color. Inside was a photograph, faded and creased, of Ruth, a younger woman who looked like her, and a very small Lily, all smiling in front of a Christmas tree. "It's us," Lily explained unnecessarily. "You and me and Mom, our last Christmas together. I found the picture in your jewelry box. Is that okay?" Ruth couldn't speak. She just pulled Lily into a tight hug, her thin shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Alex and Ben watched uncomfortably, not sure what to do with this display of emotion. Tom felt his own eyes growing wet. "It's beautiful, Lily," he said gently. "What a thoughtful gift." Ruth finally released Lily, wiping her eyes. "It's perfect," she managed. "The best present ever." The moment was broken by Ruth's sudden, violent coughing fit, worse than any before. When it finally subsided, Tom saw with alarm that there was blood on the tissue she held. "That's it," he said, standing up. "We're going to the doctor now." Ruth didn't argue, which scared Tom more than the cough itself. "Boys, get your coats," he ordered. Lily, help your grandmother with her shoes. I'll warm up the car. 20 minutes later, they were at the urgent care clinic. Despite it being Christmas morning, the waiting room was half full. Holiday accidents and winter illnesses didn't take the day off. The nurse at the front desk took one look at Ruth and immediately moved her to the top of the list. Possible pneumonia, she told the doctor when he arrived. Fever, productive cough with blood, shortness of breath. The doctor, a young man who looked like he'd been working all night, examined Ruth quickly but thoroughly. "You're right about the pneumonia," he told Tom after the examination, "and it's pretty advanced. She needs to be in a hospital." "No," Ruth protested weakly. "It's Christmas." "Lily, we'll have Christmas at the hospital with you," Tom said firmly. "Or back at our house when you're settled. But you need proper treatment, Ruth," the doctor nodded. "I'm calling an ambulance. Her oxygen levels are dangerously low." While they waited for the ambulance, Lily sat beside her grandmother, holding her hand. The boys sat nearby, their usual Christmas morning excitement replaced by concern. "Dad," Alex said quietly, pulling Tom aside, "what's going to happen to Lily if her grandma goes to the hospital?" Tom hadn't thought that far ahead, but now the question hit him hard. This little girl had no one else. If Ruth was admitted to the hospital, and there was no doubt she would be, what would happen to Lily? "She'll stay with us," Tom decided, "until Ruth is better." The ambulance arrived quickly. As the paramedics prepared to transport Ruth, she called Tom over. "My purse," she whispered. "In the side pocket, there's an envelope." Tom found it, a worn white envelope containing some papers. "Legal guardianship papers," Ruth explained, her voice barely audible over the oxygen mask. "For Lily, if something happens to me." "I never filed them. Couldn't afford the lawyer, but they're filled out." "For you?" Tom stared at her in shock. "Me? But you just met me." Ruth's eyes were clear despite her illness. "I've learned to judge people quickly in my life." "Had to. You're a good man, Tom Walker. I knew it the minute you followed my granddaughter to make sure she was safe." "Ruth, you're going to be fine," Tom insisted, tucking the envelope back into her purse. "This is just precautionary." Ruth shook her head slightly. "Promise me, if something happens, you won't let her go into the system. She's been through too much already." The paramedics were ready to load her into the ambulance. Tom squeezed her hand. "I promise. But you're going to get better. This is just a bad case of pneumonia." "Thank you," Ruth whispered, "for everything. For giving her Christmas." As the ambulance doors closed, Tom felt a small hand slip into his. He looked down to see Lily, her face solemn but dry-eyed. "Grandma's going to get the medicine she needs now," Tom told her. "She's going to get better." Lily nodded. "I know." She looked up at him with those serious eyes that seemed too old for her young face. "She told me you'd take care of me, just until she's better." "That's right," Tom agreed, kneeling down to her level. "You'll stay with us, and we'll visit Grandma every day." Alex and Ben moved closer, flanking Lily protectively. "We have lots of room," Ben offered. "And you can have the top bunk if you want." Alex added, "It's better than the bottom one." A small smile flickered across Lily's face. "Okay." As they walked back to the car, snow beginning to fall again in soft, lazy flakes, Tom thought about how completely his life had changed in less than 24 hours. Yesterday, he'd been a single dad just trying to get through another Christmas. Now he had promised to care for a child he barely knew, whose grandmother was seriously ill. It should have felt overwhelming, frightening even, but instead a strange sense of peace filled him. This was right somehow. This was exactly where they all needed to be. In the weeks that followed, that feeling only grew stronger. Ruth's pneumonia was indeed severe. She spent 10 days in the hospital, and her recovery after that was slow. Lily stayed with Tom and the boys, quickly becoming part of their daily routine. She enrolled in the local school, in the same grade as Ben, and the two became inseparable friends. Ruth eventually recovered enough to move in with Tom temporarily, taking the guest room while she regained her strength. During her hospital stay, Tom had learned more about their situation, how Ruth had